CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour, and I truly do mean the latest one at this point because, in case you haven't heard it, I decided to relocate the podcast / myself to LA. So it's the first podcast with a new setup here. Hopefully it sounds just as good as normal, if not a little bit better. But to commemorate this experience of the new podcast in LA / to celebrate it, I have, of course, somebody who lives in Detroit and is on 3 hours later time zone, but nonetheless is here able to greet me as well. Andrew Pitlock joining. Andrew, how's it going?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be on here. This is my second appearance now on the CGA Tour, and looking forward to diving into some different topics on this one.
Yeah. So I know when I had you on before,
The last
it was
one was in person, which was
Yeah. I think that was the last podcast that I ever did in Detroit in person. And that podcast was the second to last day that I was actually in that practice facility ever. Or at least,
well, that was like the second to last day all of us were.
Yeah. It was.
Weren't you? Because I remember specifically working it was a Saturday night game at Little Caesars Arena when the Utah Jazz came to town, and the news broke, and ever since, man, I went 14 straight months working from home. It was crazy.
Yeah, same here. I flew. I think we did the podcast on a Monday, and the next day I left work to go on vacation / to go see my grandfather for his 90th birthday party. And that was on the Tuesday, March 10th. And then, of course, March 11th, I got off a plane in Hawaii, ready to see my grandpa and everything like that. And I've got like a bunch of missed texts and calls. A bunch is relative to people, so I had like 3, which is a lot for me. Of course, it's not that many to other people, of course, after a 7-hour plane flight. But nonetheless, the NBA world melted down into what we have now today that we're still dealing with COVID and eventually back to full capacity arenas, it looks like in many areas. But either way, it's kind of the bookends. We got one chapter, kind of going on in Detroit with you, and then, come back next podcast with Andrew. It's basically when COVID's ending, I'll say. I mean, it's still, granted, everyone's got to be safe, all type of stuff. Go get vaccinated. Always be supporting that. But with all that said, one of the hobbies or / things that I learned about that you're really into during COVID, that you've been into for a long time, is sports card reselling. So I want to have you on the podcast here. Tell me a little bit more about, kind of like a sports card reseller's 101, right? Like, 1, how'd you get into it? And 2, kind of explain like what you're doing now as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I appreciate that introduction.
Of course.
And very, very kind. With that said, so I've been collecting sports cards for well over a decade and a half now. Ever since I was a kid, every birthday, any excuse for my parents to give me a gift, that's exactly what I was asking for. And thankfully, I was very interested in basketball. Any other sports card market at this point in time. Football, given it a little bit of competition on that front. But I've been collecting sports cards since I was, 8 or 9 years old. And the game has completely done a full 180. When I was first getting into it, I was sifting through packs, which are cards that have, like a slice of jersey inside them, like a game-worn piece of jersey or a game-worn bat or some other sort of, cool commemorative memorabilia, or of course autographed cards. And outside of that, there wasn't really too much else that I was looking for. Obviously the big name rookie cards, but as a kid, those weren't, I don't know, weren't too enticing to me. But luckily, as a kid, I also kind of had this obsession with keeping my cards in the best condition possible. I knew that more or less, you get Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards to play the game. You get basketball cards and sports cards to preserve them. You are only buying them to protect them. And I did I was holding my collection back with, for a number of years when there wasn't too much value. And then out of nowhere, I recognized that there was this massive boom going on. And with that, I was just starting up my eBay page. I was doing a lot of streetwear and sneaker selling because my old neighbor, he actually owns a streetwear store in Metro Detroit, Loose Cannon. Anybody in the Metro Detroit area looking for some streetwear, Loose Cannon flagship store in Ferndale, they'll get you right. But I was getting into selling on eBay with that, and then I recognized the value of my sports cards. And a big step forward in my sports card selling was learning the process of getting them graded. So getting a card graded means you send them out to, which are the Professional Sports Authenticators in California, sunny California, or Beckett. Beckett is located typically out of, oh boy, it just said broadcast ended.
We're all good there. I adjusted something so it'll record a little bit cleaner on the audio side, but we're all good. We're all good.
Okay, right on. So we're recording right now?
Yeah, we're still good. Yeah.
Okay, right on. So as I was saying, I was able to capitalize on the condition I was keeping my cards because I was learning how to send them into PSA, particularly was the company that I used. Like I said, there's another company in Texas called Beckett. Beckett are, they're really well known for authenticating. If you are familiar with the TV show Pawn Stars, they use the Beckett experts to come in and authenticate their autograph authentication and stuff like that. But PSA is kind of the creme de la creme of grading. So they will take your card, no matter how old or how recent it is, and grade it on a scale of 1 to 10. And I mean, if you start getting some really valuable older cards in that 9 to 10 echelon, then you got me into this right away was the fact that I was getting back a lot of 9s and 10s. So PSA, like I said, they will send it back to you graded, and they will put it in these beautiful slabs, and it kind of serves as the forever home for the card. So this is the 2006 SP Authentic Signature Series LeBron, and nothing really too incredibly special about it. As a kid, I took away all of my LeBron cards, but recently there was this, like I said, massive boom, and cards that as a kid I didn't expect to have much value recently have a ton of value, especially when you get that PSA 9 or 10 attached to it. So that's kind of what got me into it. I remember my first card that sold really, really well was a Panini Prism, which is kind of like top of the line for the mass distributed cards. Panini Prism, Anthony Davis 2012 rookie autograph on card. So there's two types of autographs you get: an autographed card that has an autographed sticker on it. So obviously it's a little more commemorative when it's an on-card auto, because it meant that the guy was actually holding it in his hand rather than just signing a bunch of stickers and throwing those on the card. So the Anthony Davis was on card, his rookie auto, Prism, which is kind of top of the line. And then I got a 10 out of 10 grade on it, which was for just shy of $6,000. And right then and there, I'm like, this is something I'm going to be getting very interested in.
Yeah,
So
no kidding.
That's kind of the start. I know I went on for a bit there.
No, you're good though. I mean, that's a full explanation though of an Anthony Davis Prism card. So I guess I'm curious here. I didn't know, one, that players could just sign the stickers, which of course makes a lot of more sense from their standpoint, right? As opposed to, it's less like work on whoever's having them sign it too, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So,
I
I mean, what part of I guess a player's contract would be with the card company themselves? Are there any players who have historically in the past gone like, I'm never autographing cards, or I'm never having my card made? Like, I guess what's to stop somebody from just going from Prism, from just going, screw you, we can go buy the photo and make the card. Like, we don't need your authorization, right?
That's a really good question, and that's actually like a pretty interesting element in all of this stuff. So players can sign autograph exclusivities with various companies. And you'll see that happen with Panini, Upper Deck, and Topps. Those are kind of the three main players in the game. And the reason LeBron James autographs right now, you haven't seen a LeBron James autograph produced in quite some time, is because Panini owns the exclusivity at this point in time for NBA cards. So any sports card that has NBA logos on it is going to be Panini from now. I think it started in like 2018. No. Oh, we cut out there, but I think we're back.
Yeah, I think we're good here. Yeah.
Which is interesting because, like I said, I think LeBron has his personal contract with, I think, Upper Deck. Don't quote me on that, but that's why you're not seeing LeBron autographs made right now. Similarly, Kobe had an exclusivity for signing with Panini, and that is why I can't remember what the last year of it was, but like 2011 or something. His Topps autographs are super expensive. And I couldn't figure out why at first, and it's because it was the last set of Topps cards that he'll ever sign. And that's because following that, he decided to sign on with an exclusivity. So similarly, Topps owns the exclusivity for baseball. So you will see Panini making baseball cards. However, they won't have MLB logos on them. Isn't that freaking crazy? So you go and find a pack of Donruss baseball cards from this year.
Yeah.
That's one of Panini's brands. And they will have the baseball players because I believe they have a deal with the Players Association or whatever is going on. But they won't have the logos, which is super, super goofy and definitely impacts the value of these cards dramatically because Panini Prism baseball cards aren't super popular like the basketball cards are. And that's because they don't have MLB logos on them.
Wow. So, and I know there's a ton of stuff as far as, well, like you're saying, like when you get the card graded as far as quality, but what other things are there that go into, like someone who's just interested, right? They want to get into the space. They're curious about some stuff. So I sent you a couple photos earlier of like some cards that my uncle has. That he was showing me the other day, right? And so I was able to look up I'm just gonna throw this out for an example. I'd been on to listen to the podcast here, but like a Johnny Bench Reds catcher card. Right, so like it looks like it's autographed. To me, Johnny Bench is a very common name throughout the state of Oklahoma because he's from there. Oh yeah, catcher for the Reds, number 5. He's technically a cousin of mine in some very distant relationship whatsoever that I've been told several times, which I have. Of course, right. Which I've been explained several times of how he's related to me. Which I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying. At the end of the day, like, it's a cool card, right? I've got the history to, follow Johnny Bench, etc. from the personal side as well as, he just was an insanely good player. But what makes a difference between, like, a card like the one I just sent you where it's just a standard, he's holding a bat, etc. But it's a card clearly not produced in the past 10 years, we'll say. I don't know if it was produced much longer, much before that. But it's not like a rookie card. What makes that a difference as versus somebody who... is selling something different. Because basically I found 2 listings for this card exactly on eBay, and neither of them were graded. One was $3 and one was $25. And both were just saying, or best offer, and they didn't have really a bid. It was just a buy it now. So how does someone find value? Like they go, oh, actually, I'm going to get that card, as opposed to me where I get the card because I just thought it was cool. All right, so I just paid $3, but I wouldn't know. Neither of these 2 cards were graded in this example. Like, what makes one card better from another one as far as trying to find the value?
Sure. So I guess to start, if you are looking to find the evaluation of a card, definitely look at sold listings. So when you go on an eBay search, you can go through the filters and you can just switch over to sold listing, and that will show, with a green price on it, the actual ending sales price on a card, because you'll see people fishing for all sorts of crazy prices. I imagine that Johnny Bench card, unfortunately, is closer to $2 or $3 rather than the person who's asking for the 25. And here is the explanation behind that. I actually have, kind of pinpointed this in some of my content. You will hear me oftentimes saying scarcity drives the world of sports cards. and I'm almost a broken record with it, with how much I mention it in my videos. And that is why you'll see 80s and 90s baseball cards not go for very much. In fact, the 90s for baseball cards particularly is notorious for being the junk wax era. Like that's what it's called. If you ever hear somebody say junk wax era, they're referring to 90s baseball cards. And that is because these companies decided that, you know, they're in the business of making money. They decided to print off a bazillion, like just copious amounts of every card. You know, the Ken Griffey rookie cards, Derek Jeter rookie cards, Mark McGwire rookie cards. Well, I get Mark was a little before that era, but like I said, Ken Griffey, Derek Jeter rookie cards are two cards you'd expect to be absolutely popping off in value. But Upper Deck and Topps printed off so much that they like didn't even keep up with them. So the scarcity of current cards and how well tracked all of that is a huge factor in the current market for it. In fact, a lot of cards will specifically have a serial number on them that will specifically show you just how many there are. Let me see if I can find something perfect. So here's one of my Kevin Durant rookie cards.
Okay, yeah.
If you can see it through all the
Oh, yeah.
light. So,
got the Sonics jersey,
gold.
so it has to be legit. Yep.
Unfortunately, it's a mix with a Chris Wilcox rookie card, which I wish that was not a part of the equation. But on the back, you will see this gold numbering right here.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, I'm having a hard time with my lighting. And it says 29 out of 59.
Yeah, I can definitely
That
see
is
it.
specifically telling you that, like explicitly telling you that there's only 59 of this card that were printed. Whereas, like I said, with that 90s era baseball and basketball for that matter, there were just so many printed that, you know, there's no scarcity and therefore not much value. And with that said, there still can be value if they're graded, but they have to grade incredibly well. Like they have to grade a 10, like a perfect 10 or bust. Because, I mean, if you get a perfect conditioned Derek Jeter or Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, then that's scarce because there's not too many perfect 10 out of 10 condition cards. However, there are still tens of thousands of PSA 9s of that card. So like I said, scarcity is what is driving that. And that is why you're seeing rookie cards of these incredible super athletes, legends, sell for pennies on the dollar. I've sold a lot of 3 Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards and one for like less than $3. And I'm not even kidding.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, that's, you know, it's one of the things that I would, of course, think about, but wouldn't necessarily think about when it comes to cards, right? I would just think that every single Michael Jordan rookie card, you know, but, you know, probably there's not that many of them, right? But as you said, the Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr. example is great. Because I would think, oh, you know what, if I just log on eBay and, you know what, I want to get a cool card, I bet those will go up in value. But as you're saying, the junk wax era, which is, you know, they just made who knows how many. Like, they don't even know, right? They don't even know how many they made necessarily. So that's very, very, very interesting. I mean, the next question I have here, and I can go through the list at some point, but I want to ask you something that I didn't necessarily send over, and that's, what's like the weirdest card that you've seen for, as far as this player was never that great, but the card has a ton of value? You know, like, is there anything like that? Is there kind of like a happy medium? For example, like a Honus Wagner card, right? That's like the most expensive card ever sold, all type of stuff, but that's got like a very interesting story off of a pack of tobacco, you know, or cigarettes or something, right? And it's just kind of because it's older. But is there something where you go, yeah, there's this random card from like a left tackle, you know, or something where you wouldn't ever think there'd be any value to it just because the player was never that good, but there is a ton of value to it for some random reason?
Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah.
So that's another great question. And that is actually why I am so hesitant sometimes to just toss things up in auctions, especially now that I'm breaking out to like the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Sector, which are, I mean, those are realms I'm not familiar with, is because I know there are random cards tucked away that have value for reasons that only collectors cherish. So the Honus Wagner one is a really interesting story. So Honus Wagner, on one of the first baseball card sets of all time, baseball cards were sold with packs of tobacco. So essentially these players' likeness were tied to, pushing forward the sales of tobacco. And I believe Honus Wagner wanted his card removed because he didn't condone the practice of that, and he didn't want to be pushing that market forward. So that is why the Honus Wagner card is as rare and incredibly valuable. I'm talking millions of dollars valuable that it is, because of that story behind it. There's some other interesting stories like that in one-off cards. The 1999 NBA Hoops Mark Jackson card. If you saw my story a few weeks ago, I was actually building out those 1990 NBA Hoops sets, and I told this story. I'm back. Cut out there for a second.
You're good. You're good.
In the background of this card were the, how am I going to forget the name of the brothers? There was a pair of brothers. Hold on. Menendez. I didn't even have to look it up. I didn't get that from Google. My brain worked. The Menendez brothers are sitting in the background of Mark Jackson's 1990 NBA Hoops base set card. And the Menendez brothers are notorious for being a duo who murdered their parents. And following this murder, they went on a shopping spree, like you wouldn't believe. And one of their big ticket items that they purchased on the shopping spree was courtside seats at Madison Square Garden. And it just so happened that, not Panini at the time, but NBA Hoops was there snapping Mark Jackson's picture for his base set card. And in the background of it are the Menendez brothers. And I guess according to like the timeline of it all, this is within like days of them murdering their parents. So that card has a slight bump in value. That card was incredibly mass produced, so nothing too crazy. But that's definitely a decent casing point for this discussion. Another one is the 2012 Prizm basketball set was the first installment of Prizm basketball. And with that, like I said earlier, Prizm basketball has grown to become the most highly sought after, mass produced set amongst basketball cards. So the first set ever of that has forced the value of pretty much all the cards in it to go up. Like just random base set cards, they've blown up in value because, like I said, it's that first installment of Prizm.
Wow. So, because I was gonna make a Mark Jackson joke, and I guess I still will. That he's the most famous thing I know him for is, basically letting Steve Kerr win a championship with his guys, with the Warriors. But, I mean, that's I gotta make one Mark Jackson funny quote. Or his quote of "Mama, there goes that man." That's always his thing whenever he's talking about any guy dunking on anyone. Yeah, that's his quote. But it's interesting to hear about the background of a photo. So it's not necessarily like the card as far as a misprint and all that type of stuff, but I'm sure there are things with that, right? As far as cards with certain misprints. I know my dad has a couple, and my uncle was showing me some too, that in my mind, yeah, it's definitely a misprint or it's off a little bit here or there, but it's not such a bad misprint that I would think that it would be worth anything, right? So what are some of the stuff that is, okay, because it's printed incorrectly or because it's, whatever from the card manufacturer, it means that it is worth something?
Sure. Yeah. So personally, I have not been fortunate enough to dive into the heavy money misprints. Mm-hmm. But there are some misprints that go absolutely crazy in terms of evaluation. In fact, I had, one of the most successful sports cards in sports memorabilia. My cat is being loud.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Oh, cats, the natural enemy of podcasts. So one of the most successful sports card sellers that I know, his name is Kruk Cards. I actually just had a StreamYard podcast with him last week. He's made, a full career from the buying and selling of sports cards. And he hunts down, when he opens boxes, which is he rarely does, which kind of came as a shock to me. isn't that crazy? The most successful sports card seller I know doesn't open up boxes.
Yeah.
He thinks that that's kind of, well, just from the business approach to it, it's just not logistically sound, because you can open up that box. It could be a $600 box and you could lose $550 of that $600 immediately. So he just cuts out the middleman and he just buys in bulk, and he'll travel the country and find people who want to sell off collections. But getting off topic, he hunts for misprints from 80s and 70s baseball, because I guess those go absolutely crazy in value. And that comes back to the lesson I was saying earlier, scarcity. That's primarily why those cards are as sought after as they are, is they're scarce. There's not too many misprints that go out there. Now, there are a lot of times where the printing will be done poorly. In fact, that's an interesting aspect of grading. Grading is not all dictated by the condition of the card in terms of, clean corners and clean surfaces, no scratches. It's also dictated by how well the card is printed. So you can get a card dealt to you from a pack that's already PSA 6 or 7. So, that's a big part of things too. In fact, this year's Prism, Prism basketball is notorious for their quality control. Every Prism card I've sent to PSA, I've gotten back as a 10. And that's not the case for everybody by any means, but their quality control has been amazing. And this year they put out this phenomenal LeBron James card. And the LeBron card is him doing the Kobe commemorative, like the memorial dunk, if you remember that. Like after Kobe's passing, when he did the exact same dunk as Kobe in the Staples Center. It's the only horizontal photo card too out of the whole set. All the other ones are vertical, and it's like a super cool card. And for some reason, the centering has been pathetic on them, or on a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, not all of them, but people are kind of outraged because they're fishing for these cards because the super crazy refractor LeBrons are supposed to be worth tens of thousands of dollars potentially, but the centering on them means that you're going to be getting a PSA 6 or 7, and that's not even the collector's fault. You know what I mean? It's kind of wild.
Whoa.
So
okay.
Misprinting can be good if it's a complete misprint that almost makes it a famous card, famously bad misprint.
Yeah.
But if you just get dealt a misprinted card, it can be incredibly frustrating.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess on that note, so we're talking about scarcity a lot here, right? And I know that's kind of, you're saying you might sound like a broken record, but I think that's something to definitely key in on for anyone who's looking to get into this space. What are some other tips of stuff people can look into as far as, they're my little brother who's 14, loves collecting sports cards, but wants to do it as maybe a side hobby that could be in the future years part of, cards or whatever, right? So what are some tips as far as, how to collect cards and how to be a collector right now if you're getting into it?
Sure. So, right now it is almost impossible to be getting into basketball card collecting, at least at a decent scale. In fact, for the last several months, what I've been having to do in order to get basketball cards on the retail market, rather than having to pay somebody's secondary price, which is sometimes 4 or 5 times higher, which I'm not even criticizing. That's the hustle, baby. I play that game a little bit too. I've had to camp out. I've had to stay in line at a Meijer or a Target or a Walmart for 4 or 5 hours. Okay, maybe not that long, but 2 to 3, 4 hours in order to get dealt a pack, well, not a pack, a box for the retail price. And the big part of the reason why these lines are congregating is because a $20 box from Target is being flipped online immediately for over $100 in terms of those Prism basketball, blaster boxes, hanger boxes. And with that said, that kind of creates some difficulties, but doesn't make it impossible. I guess my tip to new collectors would be, if you're looking to do it for fun and to get into the hobby, which is important too. It's important to kind of, I think, get a groundwork, foundational knowledge. With that, you could start with some of the lower sets, some of the cheaper sets, which are like your NBA hoops, Panini Illusions. There's some of the more like palpable, ones that people can afford, and getting into those and building out sets that can kind of get you in the right framework and state of mind moving forward. But anybody who's trying to make actual money within this realm in selling cards specifically, I guess if somebody wanted to come into this market to make money, I would almost just recommend that they don't even open the boxes, that they buy the boxes for retail and sell them for, like I said, 4 or 5 times as much. And that is not even an exaggeration. I was meeting people online who don't know anything about sports or sports cards and don't even care or think about opening those boxes. But I've also met kids in line who have been like, I've never been able to open up a pack of basketball cards or like a pack of, valuable basketball cards because they're so tough to come around. That would be my advice, is to start by knowing what you're doing. Because if you're just ripping boxes and packs, you can, absolutely blast a hole in your wallet now more than ever. So not to plug the Instagram, but that was kind of a mission of mine a little bit, is to help people get that foundational groundwork of information in the sports card realm. So Pit Stop Project on Instagram. That's the best place to start. That's my answer.
Oh yeah. Well, that's gonna be plugged here in the description at the end, all type of stuff, and in the YouTube. Depending on how the video quality is here on my end, at least. But that all type of stuff, right, will be definitely, find Andrew here in the comments, right? Well, on that note though, as far as you're saying, right now is not the best time, right? It's just everything's selling for millions and millions of dollars comparatively, right? Okay, so that's that Mark Jackson card you're talking about. Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, man, that's interesting within itself. I would not think that the background of a photo of a player,
murderers sitting right there in the card. It's crazy. So I guess there's been people who have been trying to get them out of jail. I don't know what the story is, but like I said, these guys are doing hard time and have been for decades, and they're sitting right in the background of that card. We'll continue, but I was hunting down this card for a bit, and I'm like, I had to show it.
Oh, no, you guys show it. You guys show it for sure. Well, kind of back to what I was getting at here is you're saying now may not be the greatest time in the entire world just because everyone is picking up those side hobbies and really trying to hustle at them, right? Like sneaker resales, it seems to have gone out the ass. Just if you want to go pick up a pair of Air Jordan 1s that are high tops anywhere, you're paying resale. You might be able to find them if they're not that great, whatever, all that stuff. But for someone like me who's just into sneakers, if I want to go buy a pair of Air Jordan 1s, before the pandemic, I could at least do that. I could try to buy some. Granted, I've got a pair that are like red. They're the David Letterman. They've got a mic in the soles, of course. Shout out to the podcasting phase, all type of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I've had the joke made once or twice. There are big red and bright colored shoes. So they definitely don't look the greatest on another, on a dude unless you dress them right. But with all that being said, now I can't go, if I want to go resell these pair of sneakers now and I never worn them, they were a general release. They were available in a large amount of quantities. They were sitting on shelves. That's how I was able to buy it for less than retail, and discounted. But now if I want to go buy these exact sneakers again, I'd have to pay not double, but I'd have to pay more than retail. I'd have to pay $200, whatever, when they were like $180 retail. When I probably picked them up for like $110, $115. I can't remember exactly. But sports card sales have been something else that's just gone just crazy, right? During the pandemic, everything like that. People are getting into hobbies of, flipping used cards, etc. Where do you see this whole area? And I know this is one heck of a setup to this question, but where do you see this area in 5 to 10 years? Do you think that it'll die down a little bit, that it'll be truly come back to a little bit more of an equilibrium where you will be able to go to Target and just pick up a box? Or do you think it's just going to be one of those things we don't see any, downturn with this for a long time?
I've done some thinking on this.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I imagine more retail stores might get interested and involved in the selling of sports cards. And hopefully that would subdue things a little bit. I think a big part of it, and I'm speaking from a place of semi-unfamiliarity, is this exclusivity that I was talking about earlier. Is Panini is the only person who could put out basketball cards right now, and they can only put out so many, and they only want to put out so many because the last thing they want to do is completely crash it and cause a junk wax era. Because I mean that's ultimately what kind of started that junk wax era of baseball that I was talking about earlier. Is people were really flooding into the world of baseball cards, and Upper Deck and Topps were making money hand over fist, which forced them to just put out enough to meet the demand, like make sure everybody can have a pack of cards if they want a pack of cards. And ultimately, I think it's in, talking about right now, it's in everybody's best interest that doesn't happen, unfortunately. As much as that kind of stinks to hear, especially as somebody who, aside from the money in this, I appreciate the fact that the kids are getting introduced to the sport and introduced to, maybe like an entrepreneurial mindset and, like learning the skills of organizing. I think it's important for kids to be able to collect cards. And it's really unfortunate that the kids can't really collect basketball cards right now. Nature of the beast a little bit though. And I think that a big step forward will be once these retail stores figure it out, that'll be a step forward in making sure that everybody, or at least more people, can start getting packs and boxes in their hand, because they kind of got overwhelmed. This blew up in their face. They had no idea. I mean, a few months back, before everybody, got hip to what the heck was going on here, I just kind of mapped out distributor schedules. So I knew, like, all right, Target on 12 Mile was restocking on Tuesdays, and Meijer was also restocking on Tuesdays. And it was like fishing with dynamite, man. I was just going around and, wake up in the morning and go hit all of these different stores that the distributors were dropping off to that day. And eventually, other people started catching on to that, and these stores were forced to push it to, all right, well, we're going to just release cards on Friday at 8 a.m. And then these lines started getting crazy. And anytime, people are investing their time out of their day for a spot in line, tensions are going to be high. And these stores weren't prepared to, man security or man any sort of organizational efforts for these lines. And it was the Wild West out there. And ultimately, it boiled over somewhere. I don't even know where that video took place, but I personally haven't even seen the video, but there was a video of a fight breaking out, violent fight. And just like that, boom, everybody's done pushing sports cards on Saturday mornings and Friday afternoons. So I think once Target, Walmart, Meijer figure out a safe way for everybody to be getting these cards, I think we'll be returning to some place of normalcy.
Well, not to sound like the dude who's just been watching cryptocurrencies and random Reddit threads, but why? GameStop. Listen, GameStop with their stock is a whole other tangent. I'm sure we could go into it some other time and place. But GameStop, I remember I don't think I ever camped out for a video game. I think there were a couple times in college where I'd walk into the Walmart. There were 2 Walmarts in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I was able to pick up the video game, like, whatever is the FIFA or it's Madden, I think, or NCAA when they were making those, or NBA 2K. And I was able to pick it up like 15 minutes early because the guy at Walmart had no idea what I was talking about. He's like, yeah, I think we got those in. I think they're in the back, whatever, and gave you the video game. But this seems like an area of opportunity for, and I'm sure the card companies have other deals with the, with these stores, but it seems like GameStop could just go, yep, we're the ones releasing cards, right? Like a smaller retail store where you don't have that many other, because like I'm sure the people who are walking into Target and are looking outside at the lines, of guys and gals who are waiting in lines for cards are just going, I mean, are they waiting on the laundry detergent sale? Like, that's what I'm going in for, right? But at the same point, you've got people who are very serious about getting to the far back part of the store, away from everything else by the electronics, right? Or I don't even know where they put the cards now, because every single time I've gone in, they're no longer by the cash registers or whatever. They're somewhere else.
At customer service.
Yeah. Oh.
And because they don't want to open the doors and have people doing the
Run.
dash to the back.
Yeah.
Which they were doing for a little bit too. I was caught in a couple of those where I'm, fast walking. I'm like, oh, what are you here for? You here for some cards? All right, cool, man. And then, and the thing is, I am very surprised that there weren't more incidents like that. In fact, the campouts I was doing, I was seeing tensions starting to boil, where a few misplaced words could have really caused some fists to be flying. Like I said, anytime people are throwing hours of their day into something, they own the right to that spot in line, but it was the Wild West. We were policing each other. It's crazy. Okay, people, 5 minutes till 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock's when the release happens, and suddenly this guy's two friends who have been in the bathroom for 4 hours show up, and they're like, I've been here all day, and then pushing and shoving, big chested stuff. It's crazy. So I think that, as simple as it may sound, the Targets, Walmarts, and the people at the top there were just so unfamiliar with it that they figured, shut it down. We'll get to it eventually, and hopefully they can familiarize themselves with things a little bit. But they just didn't know what was going on. And the workers certainly didn't either. In fact, workers were very visibly annoyed. Like, even when I'd show up during the week and ask, like, oh, what's the plan with sports cards? They were almost reluctant to tell me because they just knew it was going to be feeding to the frenzy that they were going to have to work through on a Friday morning.
Yeah, I got to think whenever we see all of these different retail stores and everywhere say, hey, we're hiring, all type of stuff, and then those people who are actually working those jobs that are, basically going, yeah, you're trying to hire these guys who are flipping sports cards or whatever, like the high schoolers and stuff, right? Or college age kids, just because you're making money off this, but also people are getting stimulus checks too, so they have enough money to buy for this stuff as well.
It was not helping that all of this frustration was being thrown at these employees in the middle of, an employment crisis.
Right. I couldn't imagine that part being fun whatsoever, especially with the masks and stuff too, where you can't hear everyone, you've got something to hide behind, all type of stuff, whatever. I still do think it's funny that I have my driver's license photo. It's from like a year and a half ago or whatever. So now whenever I show that to people out here in California, and it's like, I've got a mask on, it's a Michigan ID, all type of stuff, they're like squinting real hard, all type of stuff, whatever. I could only imagine what some dude's doing in, at a Target at, 3 p.m. on a Friday going, dude, I get off at 5, let me out of here, all type of stuff, whatever, and they've got to go, okay, or check whatever it is, right? Like, I couldn't imagine that part being fun whatsoever.
Yeah, and they were supposed to limit it to, to 2 boxes per customer. And there'd be times that I would go out to my car, throw a sweatshirt on, throw a different color mask on, and, it's kind of scummy to say now, I guess, a little bit, but I'd make sure that those shelves were clear before I was out of there, because there's no way I'm leaving. Genuinely, like, they were just handing out $80, $70 every time, every purchase. Like I said, it was, a select blaster box, mega box. Oh my God! If you find a mega box, which they rarely restock, but occasionally would, they're handing you $100 bill, and it was that simple. So anytime that you see something crazy like that going on at your local Target, every Walmart, every Meijer, crazy.
Well, is it still going on right now?
Meijer had lines of 30. Like I've checked like all of them. It was crazy. Target made the decision about a month and a half ago. Mm-hmm. They're done. Sports cards are not in any of their stores, period. And so Target, that was a huge factor in things, especially for select football, which I loved. That was one of my favorite sets of the year. They're done. So I guess they do e-commerce, so they'll throw them on their website, I believe, on Fridays. I guess they kind of do that sporadically, but that game's getting botted out. From day one, people have been comparing this to the streetwear game and the streetwear boom, and it is just following suit. Because like I said, like the second that they said we're going full e-commerce online, I'm like, all right, well,
It's over.
fingers crossed, because the bots take over, man. And that's just the nature of the beast. Like you can complain all you want, but it's just like I got to find a guy who makes bots, and I got to adapt. I got to find a charger too, but I can keep listening.
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I got to find some bots to help me out with the sneakers app from Nike, because that's one of the things that I could actually relate to this part about the selling, is that I had a couple of friends who've actually been on the podcast here previously. But one, I'll shout at him, is Jeremy Begun, who, when I worked for the San Diego Padres, then he was also San Diego Padres co-worker, and he told me all about, hey, you got to get into like Jordan 1s. You know, if you're buying these Jordan 1s that sold on this Saturday, and you get them, you're basically, if you are able to resell them, you're going to make X amount of money of whatever they resell for. And he was talking, you'll at least make $500. And he's just like trying to get other people just interested in whatever. He had nothing to gain from this, except for he just knew the information and wanted to see if someone else could also win the sneakers through the app. So I was able to win the sneakers through the Nike Sneakers app, and these were the Travis Scott Jordan 1s, which, of course, now are reselling for almost $2,000. I looked like, I think, yesterday or something. But at the time...
You rocking the Travis Scotts, bro, or do you flip them?
Oh, I flipped them for sure. You know how dumb I would feel if, like, I was wearing... Because I flipped them, and then I bought the pair of Jordan 1s that I do have, which I'll go grab here in half a second. But I can't wear $1,200 shoes to work or out of the house or whatever. And even though that's not what they actually sold for in the first place, and I'm well aware of that, if the resale value is that, I know there's going to be people who are way more into this space than I am and have way more questions than I could ever answer about it. They'll be, oh man, whatever. But I guarantee you I'd do something dumb and like wear them wrong or whatever. And even though I like them, I shouldn't feel bad about wearing sneakers. I would just feel bad for the monetary aspect too, of like, the second I put these on and I take that first step out of my house and there's a crease in them, in my mind, it was an investment. I lost $1,200.
Right.
Which
you got to make a definitive decision.
Right. Which I mean, I'm trying to compare here, but the bots for the sneakers app are crazy. Like the sneakers app, W's that I have are few and far between, just because the bots have gotten in there and completely controlled that market space. It's over.
Supreme, big time with Supreme too. They do a weekly drop every Thursday, so people got, incredibly integrated into like their bots were going crazy to the point where, if they were selling 10 items in a week and you kind of they give you a sneak peek. So going into the Supreme drops, you knew like, all right, these 2 items are going to go so crazy, I'm not even going to have a chance of getting them. So I'm not even going to waste my time, because time is precious. Those are the most stressful couple of minutes of every week, was 11 a.m. Eastern time on Thursdays, because that was the Supreme drops. I've gotten away from those a little bit, because Supreme, like the value surrounding Supreme has gone down, at least from my observation, a little bit ever since they sold to Vanity Fair. Do you see how much they sold for? It was like 2.4 billion.
Oh my
God. B. This was just, this is a streetwear and skate shop that was opened up in, I believe, 1995 in New York by a group of guys. And man, that's the American dream, bro. And, it's kind of a shame that they spent so many years and their brand was kind of revolving around like anti-establishment, don't sell out, man. But 2.4 billion, you could buy the Pit Stop for 2.4 billion. Yeah.
You think so? I think you could buy the CGA Tour and the Pit Stop I think we could do a bundle offer for 2.4 bill, right?
We'll cut you a deal.
Yeah. We'll cut you a deal.
Interesting with the Travis Scott 1s, and it's kind of applied a little bit once again to the world of sports cards, is the overflow of demand for the Travis Scott 1s has boomed the value of other shoes. One of the only hits I've ever had on the sneaker app were the Mocha 1s. And the Mocha 1s were essentially the T. Scotts, except they had the swoosh on correctly rather than backwards. And same thing, I was tempted. I got them in my size, which is as a flipper, that is just a no. Don't if you're gonna flip, don't buy them in your size, because I was staring at them, for weeks making the decision, but ultimately I flipped them, and that's all thanks to Mr. Travis Scott putting out essentially the same shoe, just with some altercations, and obviously the Travis Scott editions being as commemorative as they are, super cool. But that's interesting. You kind of see that in sports cards a little bit too. Cards that have no value. Perfect example is sophomore year cards. So obviously rookie cards of these stud players go for crazy amounts of money, and it's getting to the point where LeBron's sophomore year cards and Luka's sophomore year cards are going for crazy amounts as well, because there's so much overflow.
And I mean, I guess I don't doubt any of that, right? Like, of course there's going to be overflow, whatever, in the second tier. But one thing I know I would definitely want to ask you about here is that sports cards, like, how could we see a better opportunity for people who are actually interested in just owning the cards get into this? Like, little brother, myself, whatever, right? Like, so one of the things that I used to do a lot, and it's evolved, is I used to, like, my little brother was just getting super, super into NFL cards. So I would just go to Target, and I'd grab him some sports cards whenever I was not living in the state of Oklahoma with him, and I'd just mail them to him. And I think I did that, like, once or twice. I should have done a lot more, clearly. But then when I was home this past year in Oklahoma City, I would just, I tried to pick him up, like, a couple cards or whatever. I could never find any cards of any type, right? Because I didn't necessarily... I didn't care at all about getting him the Prism NBA cards, right? I was just trying to get him, like, something, because he would open it up, he loved looking at him, and then sure enough, like, one of the 5 cards would be a guy we knew, right? And it might not have been, it wasn't Tom Brady, and it wasn't, Patrick Mahomes, but it would be like McCole Hardman or somebody, like somebody who won an NFL, Super Bowl ring, we could, like, name off or whatever. And I'm just providing this as an example. But now, you can't even do that, right? So do you think there'll be the sports card makers, Panini, Top Shot, not Top Shot, excuse me, that's all like an NFT thing that I could get into way too much about later on. But you know what I'm saying, like Upper Deck, Topps is what I meant to say. Do you think, and Panini, do you think they'll start going, you know what? We don't want to make we don't want to make 10,000 Cade Cunningham rookie cards. We'll make 1,000, but we'll make 2,000 Cade Cunningham rookie cards that are not the Prism, or that are, or that already exist, and I just don't know, right? Like a different quality, different version that's not as worth as much because they can just print 5,000 of them instead of 1,000. Sure.
So for... first of all, Cade Cunningham, Detroit Pistons, very soon. Mark my words. That lottery ball, that ping pong ball, Detroit, baby. Okay, it's our time. Ben Wallace is coming to the lottery, and he's representing the Stones. So he's gonna pull it for us.
There has never been an easier jersey buy in my entire life than if Cade Cunningham is a Detroit Piston or an Oklahoma State Thunder guy. I mean, Cade went to Oklahoma State. I've worked for the Thunder, granted as an intern, but they've been the team now, and I've worked for the Pistons. So I mean, that's an easy. That'd be the easiest jersey buy I'd have in the history of my life. But go ahead here, Cade Cunningham, future Piston, lock it in right now.
Yeah. So now that we got that out of the way, they are, in a way, doing what you're kind of asking, which is create a card that is not like, crazy value, isn't going to have anything too spectacular to it. But I guess something interesting that I'm going to say, and I'm going to have to continue thinking on this later, but I'll spit it out. The value that we're finding in these retail stores isn't the card itself. It is potentially what these boxes and packs could provide. So, I mean, if you go on the lowest echelon of a basketball card right now, which is, like I said, like the NBA hoops or I guess Illusions, some of the other lower tier sets, and you're looking for your Zion rookie card or your Ja Morant rookie card, I mean, very doable. Those cards are less than $10. If you wanted to get a PSA 10 of the NBA Hoops rookie cards of these guys, those would be less than $100. So that is an option. However, the thrill that we all love in this sports card game, that everybody thinks about right when they think of sports cards, the thrill of opening the pack, that's the expensive part. So I would say to you that is very much an option right now. You go on eBay right now and you could buy an NBA Hoops card for any player you want, and it will not break the bank. And but ultimately, you're not going to be able to provide somebody with that thrill of opening that boxer pack for cheap. So ultimately, if you wanted to go and buy a couple of boxes of NBA Hoops on eBay right now, it wouldn't be absolutely crazy in terms of price. Now, if you compare it to the retail price, that's where you start hurting yourself. But try your best to ignore that.
Well, I definitely would have to, just because of the, I kind of view it this way. If someone tells me that, that the price is whatever for, I'll bring it back to sneakers here, but, if someone tells me the price for these two pairs of sneakers is $300, it'll be $300 forever, that's the only price, whatever, and I really want a pair of sneakers, then I guess I'll save up to $300. But if someone tells me, well, actually these sold at one point for $180, I'm going to go, oh, crap, you telling me I could, kind of that missed opportunity.
You start looking into how much it costs these companies to make these shoes and these cards, especially cards.
Yeah, with the labor, all type of stuff too. That's something where, oh my gosh. So I got a couple more questions here for you as well too. I know I got to ask you. So what kind of cards are the best buy and invest in, right? Is it something that's holographic? Is it something that's a rookie card? Is it something that, misprints, I know you can't dependably go after those, right? You have to get really lucky on the scarcity of it. But is it just kind of invest in whatever is this we know could be the scarce, scarcity type of deal? The less supply of them, or is there more to it?
So, like I said, if you're looking to invest in sports cards right now, your best bet, in my opinion, and even after speaking to the Legend Croc cards last week, he hammered this home too, is just buying and forgetting that you own sealed boxes of cards. That's probably your best bet in terms of, I want to make some money off this in 5 years. I have a couple of really high-end 2020 football boxes that I am tempted every day to open that I don't, because I believe in the draft class of Hurts, Burrows, Tua, Herbie.
Herbert, yeah, there we go.
Herbert is the man right now. Everybody's looking for him.
Rookie
so I guess that would be my investment advice. If you are looking to invest in the cards itself, make sure that you're looking for low serial number, low production cards. I actually just posted a story today. People were kind of panicking in this Facebook group I'm in because there was a massive dip in the LeBron James base set Prism. And base set means pretty much a standard issued, nothing too crazy card. A few months ago, these PSA 10 LeBron James base set cards were going for like $500, $600 consistently every sale. And these cards are, there's tens of thousands of them. It was like fishing with dynamite. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't get my cards graded fast enough. Genuinely, like PSA has been just jammed up. It takes about a year to get a card back now. In fact, for the last 3 months, PSA hasn't even been accepting cards because they're so backed up. And with that said, base set card, that base set LeBron that was selling for like $500 a few months ago, just over the weekend, I saw a sale go for $45. So everybody in the comments was like, oh, it's all over. It's all over. See you guys in 20 years. It's been real, back to the day jobs. But ultimately, I think that was just the market correcting itself. It was the influx of new collectors and investors who didn't really know what a rare card was, coming and buying these LeBron cards for ridiculous amounts of money because they have the PSA 10 and because they have the word LeBron on them. But ultimately, these cards, there's tens and thousands, if not over 100,000 of them. So if you're investing in cards, make sure you're getting, rare, low production cards. Look for the serial numbering, and even, there are cases where a card won't have a serial numbering, but you can look online at the variation, and they'll say like, oh, well, there's only 400 of this pink ice variant, and that, I guess, is going to take me on another quick tangent here. Panini has done an amazing job of introducing the world of refractors and variants to cats once again, to the world of sports cards. And with that, they've, kind of created their own scarcity without having anything really special to it. They don't have an autograph. They don't have a jersey on it or anything. They just make it the coolest freaking card. And they say, well, guess what? There's only 5 of these guys. So if you want
5,
like,
holy cow.
Or,
well, but yeah.
The Panini Prism this year, they had a black refractor of each player. And there's only one of those. And I think it was within like the first 2 weeks, the LeBron black refractor was pulled, and somebody was like recording it live. And that man is sitting pretty. So this is kind of a perfect example. This is actually a Topps card. I don't have any of my Panini Prism refractors on me, but you can see it's gold.
It's just cool.
And
yeah, it's just
so
cool to look at. Like if
This-
that was a
this is one of
poster, I
my-
would buy that poster,
one of my rare personal collections, just because it's Chauncey
Yeah.
Bro. And working on the lighting. On the back, there's the serial numbering. So I know, right off the bat, there's only 29 of these. And, I've even narrowed it down further. I've created more scarcity with it by getting it graded, getting a 9. Oliver, really? Really, buddy? In the middle of all this? Excuse me.
Hey, you got to follow Andrew Pitlock on Snapchat as well, too. I'll have to plug that for, honestly, some of the funniest videos I've ever seen about a cat in my life.
My apologies.
No, you're good.
So,
You're
like
good.
I said, just make sure you're investing in something that has an explicit scarcity tied to it. Look for the serial numbering. That is just a great place to start. And then once you're familiar enough with the realm to know, all right, the pink Prism Ice, there's only so many of those. The red refractors, there's only 300 of those. Make sure that you're investing in something that is limited. That's my advice.
Gotcha, okay. And does it matter at all what league it is? Like if it's MLB, NBA, NFL, as far as investing in going forward?
Sure. So basketball right now is definitely the hottest. I think just pop culturally, the NBA has done a great job of individual branding. And I think individual branding is a huge driving factor in a lot of this. And I think that's why the NFL is also up there for, the value of these cards, because people create personal ties to NFL players and NBA players. And of course that happens with MLB players as well, but you're starting to see that tail off a little bit. And I think a big part of that is because there's so many more MLB players. This is kind of a secret of mine. I don't really mess with baseball cards anymore. I used to as a kid. I love the MLB. I watched a lot of the MLB. Tigers turning it around, 4 years out from a title. Just bold takes here today.
AJ Hinch going to lead him back to another sign-stealing scandal of a World Series win.
Hey, now.
Only because he was from the Astros. No, I'm really trying to get my
He's
roommate riled up here. My roommate used to work for the Astros. No, you're good.
I'm right there with you. But with that said, I think that is why there's so much potential in some of the newer introduced sports to the world of cards. For the first time ever, Prism put out WNBA this year, and they put out English Premier League Soccer, which is those are actually far more affordable right now than obviously NBA and NFL. And I think that there's potential, especially with this last one I'm about to say, UFC. Prism put out a UFC set this year. And, it's a pricey box. It's really pricey. but the UFC, I think, has done an excellent job of, they've established themselves as at the forefront of fighting and in that realm of things for decades now, just kind of as a whole, as a league. And now over the last few years, you're starting to see a lot more of that individual branding that I was talking about. You're starting to see people who have ties to, I love Khabib. The way that I should be able to list a couple more UFC guys.
No, but like McGregor and Nate Diaz, like those guys,
McGregor, for sure, dude. Yeah, exactly. And I think those individual branding is really a huge driving factor in the success of not only those leagues, but the sports cards that surround them.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, like, owning a Fernando Tatis card, of course, it's going to bring a ton of money like no other. But owning owning a dude who's been in the league, like a Freddie Freeman card in comparison, right? Braves, MVP this past year, all type of stuff. But, man, Tatis has it going on. I got to think the value is just going to be insanely high on his versus Freeman, who's just been in the league a while. Then there's a lot of Freeman cards, too.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot more kind of random player affiliations that people make in the MLB. Like, as a Detroiter, people have fallen in love with like Carlos Guillen and Don Kelly and these kind of random players that not too many others are completely in love with, and that's why you can go and afford a card like that. But in the NBA, obviously, everybody's loving the same guys. Like KD, Kevin Durant is I love watching that guy play. I love that guy's game.
How can you like snakes, man? I'm not a snake fan whatsoever.
Nature of the biz, baby. Okay, you got to bounce around. Got to grab some titles here and there. Okay, get some rings on the finger. I get it. I would have loved to see. I'll be interested to see him win a title. Maybe without two other superstars. Kind of crazy that they got knocked out. I couldn't believe my eyes, really. But I also couldn't believe my eyes at how incredible of a performance that man was putting on. Putting in 48 points when he was smothered for 53 minutes of an overtime game that he sent to overtime. He's a stud, man. And I just love his game. And I'm not the only person by any means.
Not at all.
So I'd be bidding with a lot of other guys if there was a card I was going after.
Right. And I mean, I got to be clear here, too. I make a lot of fun of it. I do a podcast called The Big Three in OKC. We used to do it weekly, but we took 2 weeks off because one of the guys who does it with us had a kid. So congrats to Joel there. But back to the point at hand. Listen, I love KD. In fact, I love his game, all type of stuff. But I would not be caught dead on record of having 2 other guys who do the NBA podcast with hear me say that. So we'll see if they listen to this one all the way through. And I can't hate KD now that he's on a different team. It just sucked at the time because of course he joined the enemy. For the season after that he has a worse. I mean, when you have a worse 3-point percentage in a playoff series than Andre Roberson, I mean, what are we doing? So, and of course that's a stat I'm going to bring up because that's a stat that I remember, right? So, KD not scoring in overtime. That's hard. That's going to be hard to imagine here in like 5 years when we look back at this, depending on how his career turns out. But I will say, if that man's shoe size wasn't in a size 18, it was a size 17, that would have been an incredible playoff shot. Like incredible as far as just an insane shot. It would have gone down in history. Like if his shoe size was just one size smaller and his feet weren't on the line, is what I'm getting at. Then
he's got to tuck the toes. I know. You know what's funny about that is I was watching it at my buddy's 25th birthday, and they're all like big UFC guys and guys who do not care at all about basketball. And I'm watching it on my phone. I'm like, guys, this is like the biggest play of the season. Nobody cared. Not a single person. I'm sitting here like, rocking back and forth in my chair watching KD go crazy. Because at the time I also had, I have 2 Kevin Durant rookie cards up on eBay in auction right now for anybody listening. And I was thinking about that too. So I'm like, listen, my boy, he's hitting shots, watching history, and I'm going to make a little money with it. So.
And of course, even though a diehard Pistons fan, your boy isn't a Pistons player. Because the whole roster's different. The whole roster's different. It's been turned over 360 in the past year, right? So, or
You
180.
talking about my Stones?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like, my favorite player in the entire NBA right now is not on the Thunder, so I'm agreeing with you there. Or on the Pistons. Either way, not. I think my favorite player to watch in the NBA right now is probably Devin Booker night in, night out. It's just, I mean, that dude's insane. And I don't dislike the Suns. I don't hate the Suns. I don't like the Suns either. But I respect the heck out of that dude's ability to shoot the basketball through the hoop.
He's a stud, dude.
Yeah.
I'm kind of rooting for the Suns.
Yeah.
I got stock in Chris Paul too, so I mean that's just neither here nor there. But I love just a lot of guys on that team. So, and I kind of I really am rooting for a team that 3 years ago had the worst record in the league. They kind of built it like the most respectable way that a modern championship team can build. You know what I mean? In terms of going out drafting an absolute stud in Booker when other people passed on him, going to getting your DeAndre Ayton and keeping him, interested to see if he's going to get paid, and I think he should and will, whether or not that's in Phoenix, and then going and getting a Chris Paul. And it's just super cool that team has come to the forefront and is seeing the success that they are. They got to be the title favorites, maybe. I don't know. I haven't checked Vegas odds. I know that obviously it was Brooklyn prior, but I think that it was them. Maybe Milwaukee could be beating them out. I don't know.
I thought it was the Clippers before that game yesterday and before Kawhi was ruled out of Game 2. But now Kawhi and Chris Paul are both ruled out of this next Western Conference game. I mean, and Andrews thing just sucks this year for the NBA by far and away. But I don't know. I think they'll figure it out a little bit more this offseason. There'll be a little more time to rest. And it is going to be very, very odd not seeing a Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, James Harden, finals. It's weird.
Well, I guess I say we're getting old, but that's been what everybody's been watching their entire lives. But I noticed it really heavily in the NFL this year with the wide receiver class. We're turning a leaf in these leagues. We had guys get established when we were first getting introduced to the sport that have absolutely run the table, and now you're seeing those guys, walk off into the sunset a little bit, and seeing the Justin Jeffersons of the world step into the shoes that these guys fill, and the DK Metcalfs are the new Julios, and it's interesting. And this year, particularly in the NFL, I saw it more so in the past. And like I said, that's another reason why I'm investing in field football backs in boxing.
Yeah. I mean, I can name a couple wide receivers, of course. The Hall of Famer himself, Calvin Johnson, because we share the same first name, but also, one of the greatest wide receivers ever. And then Larry Fitzgerald. He's going to retire at some point. I think he's coming back to the Cards, but I just saw today that, A.J. Green was being interviewed. And I forgot this offseason that he moved to the Arizona Cardinals and he signed a 1-year, $6 million deal after me thinking of him as a max player his whole entire career. Now he's kind of at the end of it. Injuries, all type of stuff too. And maybe he'll work out another 5 years like Fitzgerald or something crazy. But you're right. I'm just trying to reiterate your point of how it is interesting. We're seeing all these guys kind of go through waves and stages, right? I'm used to Dez Bryant, the Oklahoma State wide receiver, being the guy. And he's been out of the league now for a little bit.
He's getting Carmelo Anthony.
You think so? Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a little different in the NFL because there's such a, a stable of guys you can fill. You can fill into those roles that are just incredibly athletic. But I'm having a hard time believing Dez Bryant can't make his way onto a field and be efficient for somebody. So
okay,
I guess I'm not watching enough of them. But where was he? Where was he playing a few weeks last year? I can't remember.
Ravens. Yeah, he played for the Ravens. Yeah. But then a year before
well,
that, he tore his, I think, Achilles or ACL or hamstring or something in practice for the Saints before he ever saw a
Oh,
snap.
his first
So,
practice. Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
remember that.
like, I mean, once that happens, you just really start getting tended with the guy. But now, of course, I mean, you're a Spartan, right? So there's Michigan State guys who have come and gone throughout the NFL, right? And still, I'm sure you're telling everyone about Kirk Cousins, but
We're still telling people about Le'Veon.
that's true. That's true.
That
Except
is
for
my
Andy
crazy
Reid. You're not
thing.
telling Andy Reid anything about Le'Veon Bell, right?
I drafted Le'Veon for far more than I should have this year in fantasy football, and all my buddies like made it a running joke all season long. And now at least I have these headlines to send into the group chat. Like, see, I saw it. It's just any other system, it would have been fine. He's a talented guy. I'd be interested to see where he lands, but yeah, it's funny. Yeah, MSU, man, we got a couple guys floating around.
There you go. He's got to go Le'Veon Bell to the Dallas Cowboys. That'd be my pick for him. I mean, everyone knows Ezekiel Elliott's the guy there, but you're Le'Veon Bell, and you can all of a sudden be a flash in the pan, incredible dude there to back up Elliott. Yeah. Your value is going to skyrocket.
They have Tony Pollard again this year.
Yeah, and I mean he's
that
of course
play ball.
Yeah, of course, yeah, that dude's out of Memphis. He's one heck of a player too, but he's not really a guy who's caught a lot out of the backfield, although I don't hold me to that. I'm not the biggest Tony Pollard or Dallas Cowboys like stat guy ever. So
it's funny you mentioned Larry Fitz. I just got to shout out one of my my TikTok buddies, one of my followers and followees. His name is Max Tomasek. And he just all he does is personally collect Larry Fitz, and I just find it very pure to the hobby. You know what I mean? Just the sense of like everything he posts is like Larry Fitz, like random refractor. Like he's the man, and I just find it funny.
See, I'd be the guy out there just collecting of guys of college of guys who went to the same college with me, Oklahoma State, that are now in the NFL or in the NBA. Like, I'd be, like, all over a Marcus Smart, Tony Allen, Cade Cunningham cards, or Tylan Wallace, Justice Hill, Mason Rudolph. I mean, I wish he had a better NFL career. Some of these guys, though, Chris Carson.
Justin Blackman. I think we mentioned Blackman the last time I was on the show.
We did.
Because I was a fan of his. He's such an athlete. That's the truth.
He's still not that old. He's still not that old. I mean, Justin Blackman's, like, not 35. I mean, I know I'm going to be ruling out a comeback here for him, but Justin Blackman's not 35, I don't think. So, yeah, he's 30. He was born in 1990. So, anyways.
Everybody kind of carries a personal collection with them, and some of these guys, like, I don't know how they personal collect. Like, I'll go to their page and be like, I personally collect LeBron, Jordan, and Messi. I'll be like, dude, where? My personal collection is the 2004 Pistons. That's like, because you got to set the line somewhere in the sand, or else you're just going to be holding on to anything or everything. Because obviously, I want to hold on to these sick LeBron cards I have and these Anthony Davis autos. But it's funny you were mentioning earlier about guys that don't sign. I think that could be another way to capitalize on the game a little bit is looking up guys who don't sign a lot. And you'd expect the 2004 Pistons to be a pretty easy personal collection to have because, those aren't 5
all-stars,
icons. There are some Hall of Famers in there. Shouts out to Ben Wallace. Even though for some reason I was down there, Ben Wallace, Hall of Fame, absolutely he deserves that. Stoked about it. But Ben Wallace and Rasheed didn't sign that much. In fact, Rasheed did not sign he didn't sign a single basketball card distributed set outside of his rookie season. So there's only cards with him in like a Hawks jersey or a North Carolina jersey. And, once again, they're scarce. So those ones are a little pricey. So I actually have, I'll show some other time. This cool plaque that I'm putting together of all the 2004 players. And the Rasheed one cost me a bit to grab because the man didn't sign that much. And then the Ben one is going to be taking a bump up because of his Hall of Fame trip. Hall of Fame inductions is a huge part of evaluation. So I think that could be another way to kind of find some nooks and crannies in value, is look 4 years out, 3 years out of guys who are going to get inducted into the Hall. And I mean, that's the day. The day that they get inducted is the day you're posting, or maybe you posted 7 days prior to the induction.
So that way the auction ends on the day. That's a good call. It's a good call for sure. Well, hey, follow at Pit Stop Project on Instagram, right? Getting that right?
That is right. Yep. Let me see if I could change my name on here. That'd be great. Whatever.
Oh, yeah.
At Pit Stop Project.
Oh, yeah, yeah. At Pit Stop Project on Instagram. Where else can people follow you? Get more information here in the sports card games.
You can get it on Facebook. And
Ooh.
that is going to be at the Pit Stop Project.
There we go.
We're a group and still kind of learning the nooks and crannies of that. Can you hear me at least?
Yeah. No, I can definitely hear you. Yeah.
I found my camera dead. I got like 3 minutes left in this battery, so it's
we're good.
Facebook group, it's gonna be popping. I want to try and get like the discussion groups going and stuff like that. But number one place to get in touch with me, message me questions at Pit Stop Project on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, and as always, thank you so much for joining, Andrew. Pit Stop Pitlock, love it. And then please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram if you haven't already, and give us a review rating on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll catch you guys again soon here. Again, please go follow Andrew at the Pit Stop Project on Facebook or Pit Stop Project on Instagram. We'll catch you guys again soon. Peace.